A very warm welcome to fellow panelists. In this session, we will debate the application of digitization, automation, and Industry 4.0, including advanced analytics in pharma. The application of digitization automation is not this, but the speed and the scale of technological change brought on by the fourth industrial revolution is disrupting operations across all industries, including pharma. However, we all know that pharma as a sector has lagged behind other industries. An assessment which was conducted on digital quotient showed that pharma as a sector was 8% behind average. But the good news is that the pace of change in pharma is now accelerating. And pharma and medtech sector now have 8 of the 54 plus sites as identified by World Economic Forum as lighthouses for digital adoption. This is no doubt fueled by what we are seeing in the wake of COVID across all areas. Many of the participants here would be now introducing advanced technologies, automating and digitizing process, and others are thinking about the right time to do so. However, this journey is not easy, and we see that 1 in 6 fully succeed in transformation. Therefore, it is important, and we are thankful to this panel to learn from their experience. What we will do is we will start off with each of the panel members sharing their experience in 5-6 minutes, and then we'll follow that up with question answers. The order we will follow is Geena, followed by Rajendra, then Vimal, and then Sanjay. May I now request Geena, you to share your experience and your journey, and then we will go in that order. Thank you.
Thank you, Jaidev, and good evening to all of you. And I thanks IPF for inviting me to speak today. I'm actually very glad that we are having this session on what I think is one of the most important topics for organizations today. And I personally believe in the power of data and technology and the unlock that it can create for us in pharma operations. So I think at Cipla, we've been on this journey to adopt digital and analytics to embed it in operations for several years. And while we've made significant progress in this journey, we really have a long way to go. And today I'll share with you our vision, our journey, and highlight some of the progresses that we've made. And I'll also end with some learnings that I believe are critical for any organization looking to embark on a similar journey. So if you can go to the next slide, please. So in pharma operations, challenges are not new, right? Whether it's repeatability of product performance, supply reliability, or even ensuring environment sustainability. And we've been addressing this over several years with proven technology levers, whether it's product robustness, process improvement, Lean Six Sigma, shop floor culture, Ranjana spoke about that, and even IT enablement. So the big question here for us is, are we doing enough? And I believe that there is a significant opportunity for us to do much more than we've been doing so far by tapping into digital and analytics and automation. And I think that this will bring a new horizon of performance in operations, whether it is enhancing equipment availability or improving quality outcomes, or even reducing our cost base. And most importantly, this is going to bring a paradigm shift to a lean, transformed manufacturing network overall. So all of this is just really an illustration of the kind of possibilities that it can unlock. And I dare say that in pharmaceutical operations, we're merely scratching the surface of what digitization and automation can actually unlock. So if you go to the next slide, please. At Cipla, over the last few years, we've set up several foundational elements to drive digitization and automation. And let me share some of these examples with you, right? At the base equipment level, we have sensorized most equipment to process data. We're also thinking of smart sensorization in targeted equipment to enhance process capability and efficiency further. And over that, in the operating technology layer, we've begun structuring and storing this data by implementing systems such as SCADA and DCS. And now we are in the process of moving to best practice data lake to help us manage data efficiently and effectively. And we started this journey by adopting cloud in the business systems like SAP, and we are adopting the same scalability and openness that cloud offers for operating tech data. So as I look back on this journey, this did not happen overnight, right? It took us 4 to 5 years, right, after months and years of careful planning, deliberation, and execution. So, and this has led us to some early wins as well. So if you go to the next slide, please. The technology backbone is already started to unlock performance at Cipla. Whether it is advanced analytics to drive product robustness across our network. We started this effort a year back, and that has led us to about 50% enhancement in supply and reliability outcomes across the network, and we see this shift in real time monitoring across the board as well. And through automated data logging, digitization, and reporting, we've now started to reduce manual entries needed for operations and eliminate data silos. And a good example would be where we've started automation of documentation in our SIP and CIP systems in some of our manufacturing lines. That has completely eliminated the need for any manual documentation. Also on the digital boardroom, I would say that we're looking for organization wide transparency, right? And we recently set up a digitally enabled application across operations organization to standardize, measure, and track holistic KPIs. And this allows us to give a very granular visibility across my entire network, right, as a single source of truth for all performance. And also, advanced analytics has led to reduction in invalid OSS. It has also we started leveraging our data in our QC labs, and we've been able to improve our invalid OSS to industry leading levels, right? Going to the next slide. So, while we've had early successes through digitization and automation, we actually have a very bold aspiration from our operations going forward. And our aspiration is to create plants of the future within Cipla. And this will have an interconnected and automated operations, which will deliver a new horizon of performance across manufacturing and supply chain. It will enable data-driven decision making, and performance enhancement through rapid deployment of Industry 4.0 use cases. And I think that pharma is very well positioned today with Industry 4.0 having gained so much maturity across so many other industries. We are now pegged to take this and absorb this fully in pharma as well, with these things having gained maturity. And equally, to attain a top decile outcome, right? And I reckon that this is the only way for us to meet the market's demands of low cost, flexibility, and reliability, and at the same time ensure environmental sustainability across our operations at Cipla. So as we look at it, going to the next slide, please. Our aim is to transform the work life of our people and build a digitally native organization, right? And the reason why I call it natives is because this is one transformation we will see. And let me share with you some few transformation shifts that we already see in our people. So performance dialogues that we have will now start moving to digital boards, allowing for real-time status of equipment and dynamic scheduler, right? And even advanced analytics will guide equipment condition-based monitoring and machine parameter setting instead of manual inspection and machine setting. And this will ensure better accuracy. It will also reduce the operator time, that he spends on these activities. And I also believe that this will create one important shift in manufacturing, right? So far, manufacturing used to be an art as much as a science. And going forward, I think manufacturing will shift rapidly towards a mechatronic approach, right, with data-driven decision making and standardized operations, etc. So I'm sure many of you are either thinking of embarking on a similar journey or have already done so. So if you go to the next slide, I wanted to share. If you go to the next slide, please. Yeah, so I wanted to share a few learnings that may be helpful in making your efforts a strong success, right? While we've had many learnings, some stand out very sharply to me. One is that it's absolutely critical to have bold aspirations as you think about such efforts. It's not about making incremental changes, but to fundamentally transform the way of thinking and working in operations. Many believe that such transformation is investment intensive. And while this is true, it is equally important for companies to keep a very strong value-backed view on the investments that are made, uh, and make sure that they are accretive from an ROI perspective. And given the scale and the importance of such efforts, a dedicated team will be needed to drive and sustain such an effort. And people are an important part of this digitization. So while you will need to have a very sharp eye on onboarding the new capabilities for such an effort, equally you need to focus towards upskilling the current workforce, and this will truly drive the transformation in the way of working going forward. And as I reflect on the journey that Cipla and some of the peers are undertaking, I believe that when an industry progresses, it empowers the entire ecosystem in which it participates. In which it participates. And as we progress in our transformation, we hope we can inspire other companies to reimagine the operations going forward as well. So thank you for your attention, and these are really the point of view, my point of view, and my experiences. And we'll be happy to take questions later in the Q&A. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Geena, for sharing your bold vision as well as highlighting the importance of the people in this journey. May I now request Rajendra to share his view on the digitization, automation, advanced analytics.
Thank you, Jaidev. And I take this opportunity, to thank IPA for giving me this, time to talk to all of you. Also, I would like to compliment the Indian pharma industry, what they have done in last 1 year. You please remember what was the situation in the last week of March. We had a lockdown and there were so many issues, do the manufacturing to get our employees in the factories. But within 6 weeks, the Indian pharma industry showed what a resilience we had. We were back to 90% of our pre-COVID capacity. And also, I would like to thank all the employees of Indian pharma industry that they managed to reach us our medicines to the patients. And that's a great thing which has happened in last 1 year. We have faced a lot of issues during the last 1 year. All these dark clouds we had, but there was a silver lining. The silver lining was the acceleration of digitization. The digitization itself became, in last 1 year, what we could have done in probably 2 or 3 years. This was actually one of the good things which has happened because of COVID-19. I will say the new normal is digitization. We had to use the virtual platforms for many things. These virtual platforms means that we had certain audits on this virtual platform. Today, the conference is on virtual platform. Many of our internal audits are happening on the virtual platform. And the thing is that because of the digitization and because of this COVID, what we want is the paperless and contactless. That was the keywords we had to do. There were many applications which were brought in last 1 year, which we could not have done, but because of COVID, we could do paperless and contactless operations. But during all this thing, we cannot forget about the main revolution which is happening, and that is the Industry 4.0. In Industry 4.0, what we are doing as compared to other industry, we were slightly behind that, especially the Indian pharma industry. But now we are catching up very fast. Most of us are doing work on Industry 4.0. And what is Industry 4.0? This is basically the information technology fully being used in the manufacturing operations. It's a paradigm shift. It's an orbital change. We are moving from a reactive to a predictive strategy. We are moving from solving the problems using the data to forecasting the problem, to avoiding the problems. There is a tremendous, push to improve the productivity, to improve the efficiency with the use of data. I will just give an example, of our fermentation. We have a fermentation complex, and in a batch, I may have almost 50 parameters. These 50 parameters, there is a variability, there is a band in which these parameters are controlled. Apart from that, we have a seasonal variability as far as the agro-based raw materials are concerned. And when I look at my output of the fermentation in terms of the product, suddenly I get a band of almost 30 to 40%. Now, how do I control my input variables so that I can get the output in a narrow band and at a much higher? What is that golden batch which I have, which I will get the maximum output? And this is where, we worked on that along with a consultant, and we were able to get and, reach that band where we were able to operate our parameters in that narrow band to get the output which was much higher. This is, the strength of digital. We have to see how we can use whether the golden batch phenomena or the digital twins in our day-to-day work. Another important thing, where we can use this is the changeover times. How do I reduce my changeover times? How do I improve my overall efficiency? We have, to use the augmented reality here. The glasses which come, which can, have a TV screen with them. So the operators are able to see the instructions, they are able to see the video, their timings are getting noted in all these things. And then this data is analyzed, and what we get is the reduction in the changeover time. Also, we talked about, how do I improve my quality performance? How do I, today the most important thing is and that's the investigation. How do I get my root cause fast? I am sitting on huge data of the incidents for last 3-4 years, whether it is deviation, whether it is market complaint, whether it is OS, whether it is OT. How do I use my old data to come to root cause of incident, what has happened today? And that is the strength of the data. This is what the artificial intelligence is going to help us. This is what the big data is going to help. Going forward, also we have to work, and many of us are already started working on that, is the continuous process from batch manufacturing. Also, how do we, take out the final testing? How do I have a quality assurance of my different processes, my analysis at intermediate stage, that the final analysis can be good? We have to go in that direction. Also, we have to move, and already we are working on that in various spheres of our operations, is the virtual reality. The Formula One drivers, the pilots, they already get trained on the virtuals. But as far as we are concerned, we have started it on the machines so that any new person comes, he is able to get the training on this virtual machine. And then when he goes to actual machines, it becomes much easier. We have to see how we can take it behind and take it to the colleges where people are trained on this. That's what we are looking forward when we work with the academicians. So when we are working on Industry 4.0 revolution, there are many challenges. And these challenges we have to overcome. What are those big challenges what we are facing? One challenge what we are facing is us, the top management, the middle management, to accept this change. The decisions today are being made by us, by the managers, by the supervisor using the data. In future, the decisions will be done based on the data analytics and by the machines. That change management we have to accept. There are security threats which are happening to the pharma industry. We have to make our infrastructure in such a way that we are able to overcome this security threat. Also, the data backup is very important, and backup of the backup is also important when we have such threats. Another thing what we are doing is the infrastructure upgrade, whether it is for the IT, whether it is for our own machines, but whatever the cost we are going to incur, there are enough benefits available in terms of the overall efficiency improvement, overall quality improvement, the cost reduction, and that's where we are going to outperform these challenges and the cost. So thank you very much for this.
Thank you so much for sharing examples of where digital and advanced analytics have had great impact. But I also like the articulation of the challenge. We have to have backup of the backup. So may I now invite Vimal Vimal from Sun Pharma to share his thoughts and views with us. Vimal, over to you.
Thank you, Jaidev. Thank you very much. I think what you started with, that pharma is lagging 8% behind the average. It's actually good because we get the opportunity to implement which is already tested in the market. So at times, having lagging into something is also important and can be beneficial. And Geena helped us look at the technical architect of how this digital transformation happens. So I will not really touch upon the too much technology. This panel, we have all our operational people and the technical team. So I'll just take two steps back. So today, how data analytics or IoT or automation is living with us on a day-to-day basis. Take an example. Today, if we have to buy a product, we go to our e-commerce site, we choose a product. The moment we choose a product, we get comparisons. Similar products, we look at the price difference, we look at the feedbacks, ratings. We order food from some online app. First we look at is the ratings, the service, and things like that. So in a day, every day today, we are using technology and analytics for our day-to-day activities. But just imagine the power of this data when this comes from our business applications within an organization, an amount of data leaf level that we have. If we connect all these dots together, the amount of business value it can bring to us. So at Sun Pharma, we really leverage the power of data. Right? For us, small is big. So we while we have a 5-year plan on our digital transformation guidelines, but what we look at is each of these initiative, we try to bucket into 3 or 4 key segments, right? So first is whether this initiative is giving us an operational efficiency, some kind of a cost reduction. The second bucket is it adding to our business growth, revenue growth? The third is it improving or strengthening our compliances? The fourth is whether this is helping us prepare for future. So is it innovation, wherein we invest today, we know what we are getting into, and how we are able to leverage this with times to come. Right? So while we do all these, the critical element is, do you have the data? We may get excited about what the world is doing. We may get totally thrilled about looking at the use cases with other partners as well. But what works for others might not work for me. So it is very important to see, where do I stand? How much of the data from business applications or from machines, equipments, do I really collect? Pharma, as pharma, we have never been data savvy. So most of our machines on the shop floors, which were bought earlier, don't really have even the capability to give us data. Now, today, with this digital journeys happening, even the machine manufacturers, they are trying to take this as a cash cow, leveraging how they can make some more money and things like that. But it is not easy. So for us, what we try to do is, first we try to see where we can get the data from, or how we can enable the legacy machines without getting them uh, uplifted, facelift to a new kind of a SCADA systems, how we can acquire data within this existing systems. So it is important to connect the chain. So if, let's say, from a dispensing stage till packaging stage, if compression stage does not have the capability to give me data, the entire chain is broken. So it's important to first see how we can connect this chain. So that's this first what we do. So it's important to really look at how we connect these dots. How do we bring that? So data is important. So we look at these low-hanging fruits. Things like, how do we look at golden batches? How do we use the data put into a Six Sigma perspective to see, break down into granulation, compression, and get the golden batch for that particular operation rather than having it for the whole area? How do we able to predict the failure to supply? So there are a lot of initiatives that internally we are working on, and totally thrilled. So I think the ring has happened, I think, a little early for me. So I'll pause here. Jaidev, back to you.
Thank you, Vimal. Hopefully we'll have a chance to explore some of the themes around data, their applicability in the question answer. Before I invite Sanjay for sharing his opening remarks, may I request the audience to be ready with their questions? We'll definitely promise that we will take the first two questions that come our way. So, Sanjay, over to you for your opening remarks.
So, thank you for having me over. This is my first time at IP as a speaker in the last 3.5 years. So, looking forward to spending this time with all of you. What I'm going to share with you is our strategy on digital analytics and the journey that we have taken. So just to start off, for us, Dr. Reddy's analytics is not a destination on its own. And why I'm saying this, it might sound a little surprising for a forum like this. For us, digital analytics is more of an enabler to meet our business aspirations. And why I say this is because in the last 10 years, I would have at least seen hundreds of examples where companies have made enormous investments in digitalization, in automation, which has been sitting idle for ages, just because it did not speak to the business, just because it did not address a business need very, very clearly. So we are not doing anything which does not connect with the business and connect with our aspirations. So that's the starting point for us. So before we start it off, I think it's important, since I'm talking about aspirations, to understand what the aspirations are and how does it connect to the aspirations. And without being very specific, and I'll talk about 3 aspirations, and there are many more. You'll talk about return on capital employed or asset utilization as an aspiration. You'll talk about being tile in every POBOS metrics as an aspiration. And we talk about being beyond compliance as an aspiration. When I say beyond compliance, it's akin to saying that compliance is not our purpose of existence, but it's a license to operate. So once you have earned the license to operate, the business starts after that. And we have identified two key enablers to achieve our aspirations. One of them is the autonomous way of working, and I'll talk not so much about that today. And the second key aspiration is digitalization and advanced analytics. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that in terms of go about on this journey. So the whole journey actually started close to about 2 years back when I and some of my leadership team actually traveled across the world and a lot of places, even within India, where people have applied DNA tools and techniques at scale across their network. And we went there, learned in terms of what the things they are doing, what kind of impact is happening on the business. And typically, when you go and see these places, the first reaction from people, and including me, is more around, well, it can't happen here. How those industries are different, and we have a lot of regulatory framework, and it will be a little difficult to drive any kind of change like this. So the starting point to that was we came back and we said, okay, let's identify some use cases and which we will apply at each of our plants. So we actually, across our plant, we picked up a couple of use cases. We said each plant will have one use case and they will apply those use cases. That helped build the belief and the conviction. And once we went through the whole cycle of about 4 to 5 months in terms of demonstrating that, is when we embarked about 18 months back to create our digital center of excellence at one plant. And when I say digital center of excellence, end to end across the plant in every facet of the business, we decided to go the full hog over there. So we identified close to about 30 odd use cases and applied that at scale across the plant. And once we completed that journey, it a huge belief. We saw huge improvements in terms of performance, and we actually took a smaller facility, so it would not be fair in terms of translating that in terms of raw dollars. So once that belief was built in, we parallelly actually was also building ability in other parts of our network in terms of taking some of those use cases, replicating at other places. So parallelly, while you are building it at scale, a center of excellence at one place, you're also building the desired digital core activity. And then as we go forward, now we've started embarked actually in terms of how do we take it beyond creating a center of excellence at one place and network in every plant, be it a formulation plant or be it an API plant. So that's the journey that we have embarked upon now, and we'll look at over the next 18 to 20 months we will be completing the journey. A couple of things in terms of when I spoke about the center of excellence, there are three key elements on the center of excellence. One is obviously the digitizing the whole core. Geena spoke about that, how important it is to have the whole core, every facet of your business digitized, so that you're able to harness all the data in a form that it can be usable. The second part, before you go on to the transformation, is build the right capabilities and build the right talent. So building some key required skills in those areas, and then transforming with digital, which was then applying all the use cases, be it in terms of robustness of your process, robustness of your assets, or in terms of robustness of product, or in terms of projects on de-skilling using virtual reality and augmented reality, or in terms of your yield analytics. There are multiple use cases which were then applied over there. So that's the journey that we are on. I'm sure you'll have a lot of questions as we go forward in this conversation today. So thank you so much again for having me over. With that, over to you, Jaidev.
Thank you, Sanjay, for sharing the examples of use cases on how you applied this to robustness of products and processes and yield and building center of excellence and now scaling it across the organization, right? One of the things you highlighted, which is very important, is linkage to the business and the business value. And that's, I think, all the speakers have been referring to that, whether in the form of ROI or how it links to and delivers impact. We did promise the audience that we will take the first question that comes our way, and therefore I will now share this question with all of you. Devang, just want to make sure that all the panelists are on the screen now. So thank you. But the question is from Tarak Shah of Torrent. He has asked, can you please elaborate on how advanced analytics can help in reducing invalid OS? Right. So just to repeat the question, question is from Tarak Shah, Torrent. How advanced analytics can help in reducing invalid OS? So that's the question. Any of you can take it. I don't know, Geena, you want to go first, or anyone else? It'd be great to answer this question.
Sorry, Jaidev, can you just repeat the question? I was a little
My
distracted.
question was, and yeah, no worries. Anyone else can also take it in the meanwhile, which is how does advanced analytics help in reducing the invalid OOS? That was an example you gave earlier, so I think that's probably referring to that.
Yeah, okay, so I can take this, and I think that Rajendra already spoke about it, right? Because most of this advanced analytics allows us to first collate all the data, study it properly, look at what is a golden batch and what are the reasons of this golden batch. What process parameters did we miss to capture well in our BMR, in our practices, and that's how we can continuously improve our processes. Equally, the same whether it's an OS, invalid OSs in the labs, or whether it is on the plant, it's just based on how you study your data, right? And today, fortunately, most of the equipment and machineries that we have, whether it's in labs or in operations, is able to capture a significant amount of data, and we just haven't been looking at this data. So there is already a lot of enablement in the current equipment, and but I think just we haven't put our skill sets to look at it. Thank you.
Yeah,
Jaidev,
anything you want to add?
yeah,
Please.
I'll add something, Jaidev. So first of all, it's not just invalid OS. Any kind of challenge in a recurring business, you'll be able to solve through advanced analytics. And you can apply the same thing to invalid OS also. What you do through advanced analytics is you actually look at all your past data of passing, past data of OS, past data of invalid OS. So using the past data, if you look at the current data, you failure, it's more reactive. Using the past data, you look at all the causative factors, you look at all the possible variables. You actually start with 50 variables, 100 variables, right? And then you do a regression and you check the correlation. Then you identify those 2, 3 key variables, which actually have a significantly higher correlation to every time you have an invalid OS, right? So that's what advanced analytics does to you. It helps you identify those 2, 3 key areas where the correlation is significantly high. So you can have control measures in those areas and make sure, be it OS, be it invalid OS, be it anything else, you put your process in control through more predictive and prescriptive measures.
Thank you. Thank you for answering that. Uh, there is one other question that's come here, and Vimal, if you don't mind, I'm going to address it to you. As the panel said, any question that's related to IT should be addressed to you. So on that note, I'm going to come to you, which is this is a question from Shri Krishna Jadhav at MCure. It says that it's a very practical question, which says that the weak networking, Wi-Fi issues lead to data loss and leading to deviations on automated processes. How do you deal with such an issue?
It's very simple. It's just like if I am laying a foundation to build my house, how strong should be my foundation? It has to be measured, right? So if wherever you are, look, we have to look at that in a plant. If you use a Wi-Fi or you use RFID, each of these frequency will be absorbed from the environment ecosystem. So first thing is to do is to create a right heat map of where you will be implementing. It's very simple thumb rule. You don't have to make it complex. Right? The heat maps will help us gauge what we need, how much is the sizing required, right? And what is my failover plan, right? So if there is any latency issue, how are we addressing that? So if you can get hold of a good network guy, it is an easy problem to solve. Don't make it complex.
Don't make it complex. No. Thank you for that advice, Vimal. I know that we are 1 minute away from closing the session, and I want to use this opportunity to thank each and every one of you for joining us today. There are a few other questions that we've received from participants. We will share them with you, and Devan, we will at least try and answer that back for you so that you can respond back. So thank you to all of you, Sanjay, Vimal, Rajendra, and Geena. Thank you for joining and sharing your perspectives. With
Thank
that,
you. Our pleasure.
back to you, Devang.
Thank you.
Great.